Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. I am your host, Gage Rozier. Today's episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, TeamBuildr can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at teambuildr.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey guys, Gage Rozier here. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to reflect back a little bit on what we've learned so far on Big Time Strength. I want to just put out there some of the conversations that I've been having with my staff recently about things we need to do better here at Williams Jewell College, some of the stuff we're seeing with our athletes, and some issues that we've had. And I also want to look back on some of our stuff that we've learned from Big Time Strength so far from our amazing guests, and show you how some of the ways that we're implementing some of the information. So a little bit different. We'll get back to the normal setup next week where we're interviewing some of our coaches, but just kind of want to take a break from that, just throw you something a little bit different at you, and maybe reflect a little bit on what we've learned so far on Big Time Strength. So all right, so number one, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the conversations I've been having with my staff lately. They've been doing a great job, and we've been reflecting a lot about what are we seeing with our athletes, what can we do better. And the first thing is we've had a big battle with nutrition this semester, and to give some context with what we've been doing with nutrition here at Jewell is we have a basic curriculum we follow. We call it Refuel. It's letter stands for something different. It's just a basic habit, and it stands for remember breakfast, eat every 3 hours, frequently hydrate, utilize sleep and recovery, eat fruits and vegetables, and lean protein. So again, nothing groundbreaking there, but it's just give them a base foundation on how to make the right choices, and if they're doing those things, they're off to a good start. And with that, what we do is a meal log. So we have them fill out everything they do for a week, and eat for a week, and then we will grade that off of Refuel. And we even have a little checklist to where they are actually grading themselves based off of Refuel. So it's, did you eat breakfast every day this week? Yes or no? How many days did your breakfast include lean protein? Circle 0 through 5. So they go through that process, and within that, hopefully they're learning some stuff about their diet and stuff they can get better. And what we found, and we did this with most of our athletes, is there's either a misunderstanding of what Refuel is. We're missing the connection between what we put in our body and how we feel, how we perform, how we are not injured, or they just simply don't care. So we've had these conversations with the athletes, and I think it's mostly just being persistent, and we got to be persistent on a lot of things in the weight room, but nutrition's not any different. That we got to continually tell these athletes, the habits that they need to do, because we feel like that's something that we tell them once, all right, this is Refuel, you've got it, good, go, and it's just not the way it works. And a lot of our junior seniors who have been in the program 3 years they're not doing the basic habits it takes to set up for success and to make sure that they're able to perform the best that they can. So with that, we decided, okay, so what can we do about this? And so what we did is, one, we had that conversation with them. Like, okay, let's have a reminder. This is what Refuel is. This is why Refuel is important. Try to make sure they have that connection between, all right, this is why what you put in your body is important. And it's not something that I just made up. This is all research backed. It's taken from people who are a lot smarter than me and adapted to our situation. And we made even little nutrition cheat sheets. So if they don't want all that Refuel information, all right, here's a little note card sized information sheet you can put in the back of your phone and have with you. And we made 200 of them, and we ended up having to make another 100 because the athletes, they really like them. So that's one lesson we've learned that seems obvious now that I'm saying it out loud, but we got to be persistent with a lot of things, and nutrition is certainly one of them. Another thing is reevaluating our programs and seeking outside help, not being afraid to reach out to coaches and ask what their opinion is. And for me this year, we've had too many injuries. We've kind of hit a streak of bad luck with knee injuries specifically, a lot of non-contact, and it bugs me. And So something we did, we've sat in the office and talked about, what we can do in our program, and we maybe have some ideas, but, we need to get outside of our scope and go reach out. And I reached out to a lot of our former guests on this podcast. I got great responses from, Coach Mathers and Coach Sobernagel. He called me on the phone and talked me through it, and Coach Selleck and Coach Quinlan and a lot of people as well. And that's something that I wouldn't have done in the past. And I just got such great feedback from those guys, just ideas on what we can maybe add, what maybe we need to take away, and also to not jump off the cliff about it. That there's only so much that we can control, but at the same time, what we can't control needs to be perfect, and that's something that we're definitely working on here at William Joe College. So some of the stuff, just for your information, that we're going to do. We're gonna hammer ankle dorsiflexion a little bit more. We got that from Jake Niederman, podcast episode as well, I believe number 4. He hammers ankle dorsiflexion a lot. I think that could be something that we maybe need to do a little more. We need to get a little bit more single leg work in, a heavier single leg, load it a little bit more, and just from the logistics of our weight room, we have to be more creative in being able to load our main movements and getting our athletes stronger in those main movements. We're kind of in the situation where we have a shotgun approach, and we kind of have to get athletes in and off the rack. So a lot of our accessory stuff ends up being, body weight and band movements or plated movements that I think we may have hit a plateau on. So we've already found ways to maybe get a little more creative, where we can spend more time on the rack, and also maybe try to, bump up those main movements a little better and get our athletes even stronger. So anyway, those are 2 things that we've been really discussing as a staff. I'd love your guys' thoughts on those as well. If you got any more tips for me, please feel free to share. I'd love to talk about it. So next I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about ways that we are implementing in some of the stuff that we've learned so far from Big Time Strength. And there's 4 big ones. And first off, I take something from every single episode, even if it's something as small as a high five or a mindset approach that we take to the day, to our athletes. I have taken something from absolutely every one of our guests. They've been awesome. But there's kind of 4 big rocks that I want to cover, and show you how we've implemented them here, and maybe give you an idea to where you can do it where you're at as well. So number 1, Sobernagel. He believe he was episode 14. Okay, so he has a grading system that the second he said it, I'm like, I got to do this. And we've implemented it here in phases, and it's been very, very productive so far. So it's a colored grading system. Again, please refer back to episode 14 when you can hear him, how he uses it. He's much more experienced with it than I am, but I'll kind of explain what we're doing here at William Joe College. We have a red, yellow, green, and our yellow behavior that we tell our athletes is, this is what we expect you to do. This is the minimum, and it's all based around being responsible, being disciplined, and having a positive demeanor, and being a teammate. So those are kind of our 3 big core values we talk about with our athletes is be responsible, be disciplined, and be a teammate. So we tell them some examples of behaviors that looks like that. And it's nothing groundbreaking. It's stuff that we've all told them before. It's nothing new thrown at them, but it's in a formatted, structured way that they see, okay, yeah, I understand how that's being responsible and how that's being disciplined. So with our green is our above average behavior. So when athletes come in, if they their behavior throughout the day, if it's above and beyond just the minimum, okay, we green them. We say you're green, okay, and then if they are below that, they're not being responsible. Basically, they're not doing disciplined behavior that we ask them to do, or they have a negative demeanor, they're going to be red. And how we do that from an administrative standpoint is we coaches and I will walk around with green and red markers. So on the attendance sheet, when we see green behavior or red behavior, we'll just go to the attendance sheet and kind of just make a dot or put a dash through their name that they're red or green for that day. And then at the end of the workout, we'll come and I'll sit with my staff and kind of go through it, like who you have as greens, who do you have as reds, and if you're not mentioned, you're a yellow. Okay, and then I'm tracking that data, those reds and greens, all year. I've been tracking it for about 12 weeks now. I got their roster on an Excel sheet, and then at the end of the year, I'm going to give them a yearly score. So how many days were you red, how many days you were green, and then the coach is going to see that. So It's been a very good tool. Our athletes love it. They love to see where they stand. And from a day-to-day standpoint, I'll take those, say it's a Tuesday lift, I'll take the greens and reds, and I've got a little sheet that shows, these are green behaviors, these are red behaviors. And if you're green, I'll put your name on a green, I'll put a number by it that coincides with that numbered behavior that you were greened for. So not only are they getting feedback that they're green or red, but they're also getting feedback for why they're green and red. And if they don't understand why, it's sparked a number of great conversations of why that behavior is good or bad, and why, maybe what can we do to fix it now. And the athletes love to see their name up there in the green, and they get frustrated when they're in red. So it's been very positive for us so far, and our coaches are on board with it. Our head coach, football coach, they get a helmet sticker if they're green all week, and we've had quite a few guys get that. So that's number one. That grading system, to where we can kind of grade our athletes from Coach Silbernagel, has been awesome. Moving on to number two is we picked up our monitoring a little bit, and not only making it more of a priority. We've always tried to monitor with some data as far as like hours of sleep and some of that stuff, but I can't say that we've ever actually used the data in a very productive way, which of course is the big issue with data. But after talking to Coach Selleck at Avila, which is on episode 12, he's doing a lot of cool things with this data, and he's very good with Excel. And we're using Team Builder to use ours. And what we've done is create a wellness survey. So we ask them 5 questions. It's hours of sleep, the quality of sleep on a scale 1 to 5, and then your mood, energy levels, soreness, and that's the 5 there. So all those last 4 are on a scale 1 to 5. So every time our athletes lift and on game days, they fill out their questionnaire. And we've been looking at it, we've been looking at it really hard right now with our in-season teams. So how we've been using this data with football is I will track Team Builder, give me a team average off of those 5 scores. And I'll track a daily average for the team, and then combine that into those 3 days into a weekly average. And we're just trying to see trends. And whether it's a coincidence or not, I don't think it is, but we found that over 10 weeks now with our football guys, we're usually between like a 61 and a 62 and a half. I know that number doesn't mean much to you right now, with 9 out of 10 of our games. But one game, which we did lose this game, but it's in my opinion by far our best performance from an energy standpoint, competitive standpoint. We lost to the number 2 team in our conference with 20 seconds left. That week we scored a 66. And so breaking that data down, we slept really well that week. And not only late in the week before game, but we slept early in the week really well. About an hour and a half more both days than the other weeks. And whether that's a coincidence or not, it could be. But for me, we use that as a great opportunity to have that conversation with our athletes. Guys, look, this is data that's showing, number one, that we are looking at this wellness survey and we are using it. And number 2, look, when we sleep well, we play well. And just to make that sleep even more a priority all week, that was a great teaching tool that we could use. But we're really liking, again, Team Builder. They've sponsored this podcast, and I can't say enough about what they've done. But they have a reporting function that you can color it. So if their number's bad, it's a red. If it's okay, it's a orange. Or if it's green and it's good, it makes it really easy to read those reports. So the monitoring, I'm really happy with that, and the athletes like that we're asking those questions, and they have almost an outlet to explain how they're feeling, and they know that we care. So, all right, so number 2. Number 3 is reactive agility. So, or just agility. If you want to listen to the interview with Coach Corey Van Wyk, number 6, it was an awesome episode, and he's just a very smart coach, and the stuff how he broke down agility and progressions, and it's great. So we've been trying to put a lot more reactive stuff into our change of direction or agility. It's the whole, how do you define terms? So agility is when we're reacting to stimuli, and we've been trying to make stuff a lot more reactive earlier on. We're still going through progressions. For me personally, I like the value of breaking down the crossover step and the shuffle and change of direction stuff a little bit, but we're getting into a reactive environment much quicker. We'll teach them the progression, and that very same day, if we're teaching the crossover run, we'll have them do a two-step crossover, just reacting either from me as the coach on a go or a direction or a point, or reacting from a teammate and competing a little bit with it. So he kind of opened my mind up a lot about our change of direction, agility, philosophy, and kind of what we're doing there. And he obviously puts in a lot better words than I can. I encourage you to go back to episode number 6 if you have not, and listen to him and reach out to him, because he's a bright coach who brought a lot of really good information to that podcast. All right, the last one, number 4, is this concept of E plus R equals O. And if you ask my staff, they'll tell you I'm kind of nerding out about it right now, and it's something that I think it's just a great mindset to have personally, and it's a great mindset that we can bring to our athletes. And we haven't here at Jewel yet, just because I want to make sure I understand it first before we get into our athletes too much. But this comes from Coach 9 on episode number 18. He's the first one that kind of mentioned the E plus R equals O mindset, and that stands for event plus response equals outcome. And at that time, I thought it was a great idea. It kind of sparked my interest a little bit, but I didn't dive into it much. He talked a lot about just how he talks with his athletes about responding to events instead of reacting. So teaching them what a good response is to certain events that happen to them, either in game or in life or whatever it is. And at that time, I thought it was a great idea. I'm like, man, I think I can implement that stuff. Well, later on, about a week later, my buddy Preston Peterson, the co-host of this podcast, turned me on to the Focus 3 podcast with Tim and Brian Kite. And please check out that podcast. These guys are amazing. They break stuff down super well. And turns out that E plus R equals O is kind of their baby. And I dived into a podcast with them where they break the E plus R equals O mindset down, and then they break down skill sets on how to manage your R or your responses in a structured, skillful way. And the reason why I like this so much, and I think it has potential to have a great impact for athletes, is something they mentioned in the kind of the first episode was, this is mental health 101. And we live in a victimhood society. So many people believe that the outcomes they are getting or the circumstances we are a product of our circumstances. What their point is with this E plus R equals O is that we are more of a product of the responses to those circumstances or the events that happen to us in our life. And it's not about what happens to us, it's about how we respond. We've all heard that stuff. We've always heard about control the controllables and all that, but it's never been put into a system. And that's something that the Focus 3 podcast does really well, is this E plus R equals O is a system that breaks down how we can manage our responses and do it in a very productive way to always get better and to effectively manage our responses to events. So back to the mental health 101. A lot of stuff that when athletes struggle with depression or anxiety and stuff like that, or stressed, it's a lot of the time, and I'm not an expert on this, but it seems like it's when we are trying to control things that we can't, and we're not satisfied with the outcome. So if we can get in this mindset that we can't control the events that happen to us, we don't control them, we don't deserve them a lot of the times. There's a lot of healthy people out there, great people that get cancer. They don't deserve that. But they are responsible for understanding those events and then being effective at responding to those events to be able to influence the outcomes in a positive way. And also understanding that we can have the best responses ever. It does not guarantee that the outcome's what we're going to want it to be or like. But a bad response can always make the outcome worse. So I encourage you I'm just talking right now, I want to get into a lot of that stuff that I'm learning, but hear it from them. I mean, they are the experts on it. So check out the Focus 3 podcast. And from an athlete standpoint, we've already gotten into it a little bit. I haven't explained the whole E plus R equals O concept, but explaining to them about complaining about bad calls is something that is really frustrating for me to see. And I think we have a tendency to do that, a lot of our athletes. So explaining to them, what happens when a ref makes a bad call? A lot of us, our default reaction is just to complain about it. Well, let's talk through, why does that not work? It doesn't help solve anything. It only makes the situation worse by bringing a negative attitude to it. So let's talk about being a problem solvers instead of complainers. And that's kind of what the whole E plus R equals O concept is about finding effective responses, not just about complaining about our circumstances, because we're not getting better in that mindset. So again, please check those guys out. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. In the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to take it to our athletes and explain a little bit more. We're talking about it as a staff right now, and it's spoke to a lot of good conversations. And if you're into those guys too, or want to talk about it, please reach out. I'm kind of nerding out about it right now. So, all right, guys, that's it for me today. I got to get to a staff meeting. So anyway, I just wanted to switch things up a little bit, kind of reflect back. It was a great exercise for me. I hope you enjoyed the podcast episode today, but a great exercise for me to just kind of reflect back and learn and think about how much we have learned from this big time strength. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. Please share it with any coaches you think might enjoy it as well. We're always trying to improve or try to expand our audience and get it to whoever needs it. So thanks, guys. We'll get back to the normal routine next week with Coach Peterson, bringing a high school coach to you. Keep doing your thing and have a great day, guys. Thanks.